Crisis Control, brought to you by Xerilio. Cybersecurity experts protecting Australian businesses and organisations so we can all be safer together.
Hello, I'm Amber Sherlock and welcome to Crisis Control. If there's one group of people which benefited from the global pandemic, it's cyber criminals. Why? A wave of people moving to remote work, in many cases, overnight. All those people using their own technology at home, providing fresh targets for hackers to gain access to company systems via unsuspecting employees.
BYOD, bring your own device. The work from anywhere trend accelerated during the pandemic, and now work from home, at least part-time, is the norm in many organisations. Cost savings, improved productivity and flexibility are the upsides of the BYOD phenomenon. But shift to remote work has introduced a raft of new business risks, including legal, financial and security, not the least of which is an increased risk of cyber attacks.
I think also we look at what's happened in the past couple of years with COVID and hybrid working. Now we're starting to see organisations, operating in a much more diverse environment than they ever had before. And this has created new threats or new attack vectors for criminals to try to exploit and attack organisations. We have a lot more entry points and access points into our organisations than ever before.
Nearly 2 in 3 global CISOs surveyed by Proofpoint say remote working makes their organisations more vulnerable to cyber attacks. And a recent Verizon survey laid bare the impact of cybercrime on mobile devices across business sectors. 4 of 5 enterprise organisations have increased mobile security spending over the past year. 88% of retailers worry a mobile security breach could have a lasting impact on brand or customer loyalty. Financial services executives believe cyber criminals see their sector as a more lucrative target than other industries. According to the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, planning for BYOD is crucial. Its tagline is purpose, planning, policy and polish. It urges companies to put risk management at the heart of implementation, to develop and communicate policy, and to include regular reporting to the senior executive teams.
So, this blurring of the lines means that we all just have to be a lot smarter about how we think about, our data being stored not just on our devices, but also in these clouds. And when we have access to the cloud, that means that hackers can also sort of tailgate that access to be able to go in and exploit it.
So has business caught up to the risks of bring your own device? Our panel today, Vladimir Mitnovetski from Dicker Data and Troy Heland from Verizon. Thank you both for your time today. We really appreciate it. First, let's go to you, Vlad. The impact of the COVID pandemic was huge. How did it impact the digital transformation?
I mean, we've been talking about digital transformation for like 10 years prior the COVID. And not a lot of businesses actually adapted and started the journey of digital transformation. Hence, we've seen a lot of people really struggled when COVID came. Ultimately, overnight, over 1 billion people had to go home and start working from home. And we've realized that not many companies were actually set up in the right way and had all the right infrastructure. So the compromise in security was very, very big. Everybody was in rush to get the equipment. I work at IT wholesale distributor, and at the time, we've had a lot of our partners and customers calling us up and said, we just want to get anything that has a keyboard. It was all about business continuity at that time and trying to survive.
Well, as you say, working from home was supposed to be a gradual plan, and the COVID pandemic certainly meant it was a bit more of a building on fire situation. The rollout had to happen so quickly, and I guess it's just now that we're realising that implication for business, not just costs, but the risk angle as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And still a lot of businesses are dealing with those compromises that they've had to do. But now, from thinking of how do I get my business more resilient, they moving slowly into, we really need to adapt it quickly in order to get more efficiency within our business, get more effective, build our businesses through. And they realize that they can't do it without getting that into that digital transformation journey. It's incredibly important, and it's a pity that it took COVID to really accelerate that thinking.
Have some companies even had to go sort of back to the beginning post-COVID because they rushed through things without thinking of them, and then they now have to sit down and actually work it out?
100%,
yeah.
And that's what we're seeing as well in my industry as well. From rushing through the devices and getting people set up at home and working through, now it's, do we have a good connectivity in place? Do we have good infrastructure to support all these additional workloads? How can we move quicker to cloud adoption? So now is the time where, if you like, COVID has accelerated the digital transformation and moved companies to think more security, cloud adoption. How do we deal with increased loads, and what do we have to put in place in our businesses if another wave of COVID comes or anything else? Like, do we have a proper digital transformation processes in place in order not to face what we faced 2 years ago?
Troy, I'll bring you in. What challenges are business seeing working in the post-pandemic hybrid world?
Yeah, like Vlad said, the increased technical adoption was really a silver lining throughout that pandemic, but it's really increased that attack vector for cyber criminals to hit us with. So most businesses are fully aware of the threat, and I think everyone's aware that this is something we absolutely need to be working on and concentrating on. But that device security that we need to really concentrate on now is still lacking, and we're seeing that from our end, from Verizon, who work on this consistently.
So with mobile devices and personal computers now the perimeter for cybersecurity, what sort of issues are governments and enterprises facing? I mean, especially now, remote working is absolutely here to stay.
Yeah, you're right. And as new security approaches and tools, they mean that all of our employees are working from home, or that they might be remote or in some sort of hybrid model. So there's that mix, and it's not actually that difficult to do the right thing in the first place. It's just a matter of some companies seem to be a bit hesitant. I think we've, in a recent study by Absolute, that 22% of IT leaders have said that their primary reason for wanting workers to come back into the office is actually to maintain a better corporate security posture. Now, we don't think that that's the right solution. Employees and staff these days are being given this opportunity to work remotely and to work from home, and I don't think we're going to see a full workforce back in the office just to improve our corporate security.
Yeah, not anytime soon. Now, there is such a demand for technology. Vlad mentioned it during the COVID pandemic, but supply shortages are still a major problem.
Yeah, they are, and they will continue to be, which means that you need to get the absolute bare basics right when you're doing security. To engage with the best with the best companies that are working on security, and to make sure that you know where your attack vectors are better than the criminals do.
Vlad, we'll go back to you. Security obviously is such a big issue with the rise of technologies. Businesses feeling like they're more at risk now than they ever were, and are they investing the money to make it better?
Look, absolutely. I was actually part of a seminar a couple of days ago, and there was a couple of research points there, and they were saying 3 years ago security was number 4 on the list of the top of the mind of all the CEOs and CFOs of the businesses. Last year and this year, it's absolutely number 1 priority for all businesses. In my industry, in tech industry, security was an add-on. We've never led with security. Now,
It seems ironic, doesn't it?
every conversation is now led with security.
Yeah.
And the conversation moved from IT departments right into the CFO and CEO conversations, because everything is now outcome based. How do I protect my business? How do I get my business to be very strong and resilient from events of what we've seen happening in the last couple of years? And looking at what's happening with the geopolitical situation and war in Ukraine, and in unprecedented times we're living in, security become absolutely top of mind with all the partners I work with and the companies we're dealing with.
So has it been a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, or has it been because companies are actually seeing other companies being targeted, the risks that are happening? Take me through why it's now number one and not number 4 anymore.
Yeah, well, the cyber security problem is a real one. I had a conversation with a head of IT and security in one of the major hotels in Singapore, and they were actually attacked. It was a cyber attack, and they asked for the ransom. And then the anecdotal thing is, those attackers were actually offering help to this hotel management to actually get the money over to the attackers. And they were so sophisticated in what they were doing that they were actually offering them to see how they can push the money through and actually get them the best way and the most effective way to get the ransom over to the attackers. It's just crazy. It's real, it's here. And at the end of the day, they were actually considering to pay because they couldn't afford to get massive hotel without operation for a day, because it costed them millions of dollars.
Well, it seems like many of these businesses are paying, but not many of them are getting any of their data back.
Yes, absolutely. If I'm not mistaken, there was over $4 billion that actually moved into the attackers in the last couple of years. So figures are astronomical. So it's real, it's here. They're not getting their data back. But the problem is that they're not putting enough budgets, they're not investing enough, they're not thinking it through. Well, not before, but now it is real.
As you say, now it's number one priority.
Absolutely.
Still, are businesses doing enough?
Business can do more. The attacks is getting more and more sophisticated. They're coming from areas where you never expect them to come. Unfortunately, the way you protect your business is incredibly complex. So that's why reliance on your system integrators, your managed service providers, your technology partners has to be a priority. Because in order to get the right level of security and the right level of protection, you need to get the professionals to do it for you. And if you involve those professionals and those trusted advisors, then you have a good confidence. Put the good confident level that you put everything you possibly can to make your business as protected as possible.
Troy, how are people using their devices between personal versus work? You go home with a work computer, you might have an Apple phone. What's the reality?
So things have changed now, right? Because we do have this amalgamation of our work and our home life. And I've got 2 scenarios I want you to imagine, right? So in the past, perhaps it's mid-morning and you're sitting at your desk and an email drops into your inbox and you double click it and you have a look and you've just done this course on phishing and all of a sudden this email doesn't quite look right. It's a bit suspicious. Maybe I'll have a look at it later. Now, scenario 2, it's maybe 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. You've had a couple of beers with your friends, you're in a taxi on the way home and your phone buzzes in your pocket. So you pull out your phone, you have a quick look at it, it's an email, looks okay. You're more likely in that scenario to click that link, right? You can't hover over a link to see if it looks right or if it's directly from Australia Post or from wherever they're pretending to be from. This amalgamation of our work and our home life is causing issues, and it's something that all businesses need to be fully aware of.
Yeah, because business laptops are owned by the companies. Personal devices are designed to have a one-on-one relationship with the consumer. Data security on these personal devices is stronger. What's the implication for IT departments trying to manage that? Because they can't own that relationship. And you know, what if they leave the
really
company, their device is compromised? I mean, there's so many scenarios, isn't there?
There really is, and we could talk for days about all the different things, all the what ifs, right? You know, what if this happens or what if that happens? And it's not all companies, particularly the smaller companies, can get across what all of those what ifs are and make sure that they're secure from them all. So it's important to, like Vlad mentioned before, to lean on those companies that have done it for many years and can secure your devices and can secure the devices of your staff that perhaps are bringing their own device.
Because not only you need to protect your device, you need to protect the environment you're in. You need to protect your data, your network and your networking environment, your data center infrastructure that supports your environment. So it's a multi-layer approach, and it gets really, really complex. Unfortunately, through the very sophisticated attacks, you need to have a very sophisticated, complex protection approach.
Yeah, especially, you know, I have my work laptop and then I open my emails on my phone, and they're two very different things. Then you go home, you open your personal email, you open your work email. There's no separation anymore. So from a security point of view, that must be extraordinarily difficult.
Absolutely, it's a nightmare for absolute nightmare for any IT departments and any organizations. And yet, remote working is here with us to stay. Back in 2018, there was 350 million remote workers in the world. It's a 1.1 billion people right now, as we speak, working remotely. So it's an incredible platform for attackers to get out there and really find the weakest points, and I'm sure that's exactly what they do. So we as a tech industry, we need to make sure that we educate, we train, and we enable all the businesses around, and we really open their eyes and tell them how important it is to get the right level of security and right level of protection of their businesses.
What are the new strategies for the enterprise players like Microsoft or Google as a result of this?
Yeah, look, they're having exactly the same challenges and exactly the same ways of thinking. Now, every time I talk to Microsoft and every time I talk to Google or AWS, Amazon platform, they lead with security. Now the security becoming a topical conversation. So when we're talking about the cloud, how do we secure the cloud? How do we secure all the workloads that are staying in there? Businesses want to know if they're putting the data somewhere in the data centers, somewhere in Eastern Europe or in North America, how is it protected? How quickly we can access this data? And how quickly we can analyze this in a nice, secure way. So
is it possible?
It is getting a lot more sophisticated. Microsoft and Google of the ways, they're putting a lot of investments and R&D dollars in order to make the environments more secure. Arguably, everything that is based in here in Australia, it gives probably a lot more peace of mind to people, and they love to have their data next to where they are. That's why the world we're living in is a very hybrid world. It's a hybrid IT, multi-cloud environment world. No businesses putting all their workloads or their data in one single point. It's all sort of flowing.
They're hedging their bets.
Exactly, exactly, and they're moving it around. And moving around data and workloads is also a level of security and protection. So it's got its own degree of complexity, but also it makes it a lot more secure.
Troy, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's not unique, and I know Vlad mentioned the Singapore hotel before, but each year Verizon actually surveys global leaders that are responsible for security strategy, policy, and management across the board. And close to half of the companies that we've surveyed said they'd suffered a compromise involving a mobile device just in the last 12 months. So this is a fairly common thing that almost every organization and every business needs to be concentrating on.
Thank you so much for your time today. Now, let's ask a CISO.
My name's Eddie Gasparini and I work at NTT Limited. I'm the CISO for the corporate IT environment. It's a global role at the moment with about 40,000 employees under my remit. Think about adopting a zero trust strategy, and this will help to prevent unauthorized access to your business data. So the key principle behind zero trust is it's quite simple. It's never trust, it's always verify. As more organizations incorporate remote work and hybrid multi-cloud environments, a zero trust strategy will help protect data and resources by limiting who has the access and requiring context before any access is granted. So secondly, protect your data with data classification policies and encryption. So with the increasing amount and value of data being hosted in cloud environments or accessible remotely, you should take steps to protect the data itself, not just the systems that are used to access it. Thirdly, create, and just as equally important, test your incident response playbooks. These are two of the most effective ways to mitigate the cost of a data breach. And finally, create a security-first culture. Now, your employees, they're the last line of cyber defense. They're a critical component of your overall cybersecurity resiliency.
And that wraps up Crisis Control for this week. I'm Amber Sherlock. Thanks for watching.
Crisis Control, brought to you by Xerilio. Cybersecurity experts protecting Australian businesses and organisations so we can all be safer together.